Hey there, this is Tim from Golf House Academy. For our August 2026 monthly tip, I kind of wanted to talk a little about something I see a lot and something you hear top players talk about a lot, and that is obviously like keeping the club in front. You'll hear a lot of players who, when they're being interviewed, that's probably a good sign they're playing well. They're going to talk about, just kept the club in front of me, stayed patient, all those things. But I specifically wanted to focus on the club staying in front. So something I see a lot is kind of the arms leading the body. I feel like this is it's something I coach in a lesson on a daily basis, generally speaking. We're coming up into course week next week in our curriculum. So I figured this would be a good time to sort of talk about some of those overview things. We talk about positions and where the club should be at P1 and, how that gets there. But some of the big overview, big picture things, when we take out those words and what do they mean? And ultimately, the big thing I hope you can take away from this video today is that we really are trying to keep the club in front of us. It's just that when we're swinging and we're turning, in front of us is actually moving. Sounds a little crazy, but yeah, here we're going to get into it, and I'll give you a little more explanation about what I mean. So something for me during my career playing was definitely, I would tend to get the club a little inside, my hands would go a little outside. Now I've got the camera set up at this viewpoint because this is where 90% of golfers are going to video their swing, or let me say that another way. This is where golfers will video themselves 90% of the time. Now the trouble is, you'll notice in our studio we'll have a down the line camera and a face on camera, and really each one of these cameras is going to cover what the other one is missing, right? We ultimately live in 3 dimensions, and each one of these cameras is only going to capture 2. So from this down the line camera, what my swing looks like in this first position, if I'm just looking at the club, the difference of this and this is not going to be as easy to notice because it doesn't see the face on depth, right? Which if I do that face onto the camera, right, this is changing quite a lot. So whether I hinge it up really fast or I get really wide, that's not going to be as apparent from this viewpoint, right? So what I'm always looking at, and today we've got this, my microphone's obviously got the fluffy thing on here, which is going to be a good indicator. So I talk about like a laser coming out of the chest or an eyeball, and I want to feel like it's always looking at the club. So relating back to me and my issues for a very long time, this look would happen a lot, right? In the club, and the hands get outside, and then kind of wind up, get a little laid off, and kind of make it work from there. Now that's great. When I was younger, more flexible. Now as I get older, it starts to make a bigger difference, and really want to focus on like, what am I actually dealing with here? So I'll start with like common things I see. What I was taught when I was young was, take the club back with your right hand, let it lead you back, and ultimately that means my right arm is pulling my turnaround, and that's where I'm going to lose some of that width. And whilst the club might appear to set okay, ultimately if I stood there that would look kind of like this, right? And really what I'm trying to do is have the club a little more out in front of my chest. So whilst the plane of the club, if I do that more with my arms, kind of, it looks fine and can function. Once you get under pressure, I start to lose stability on the club face. And obviously you can see that one wasn't very good. So a really good drill that I like to do is, well, I got several here which I'm going to run you through, but I'm really trying to keep my hands in front of my chest, which means like if I'm up here, right, this is obviously going to be right in front. Now when I turn, I'm going to get set in a position where my hands and arms can still work this way, and I'm sort of turning and coming through there. So if you struggle with hands going outside, club head going inside, this is probably not a bad one for you. If you tend to come over the top, which is probably going to be most of you watching, this video is probably going to help you as well. So One of the drills that I really like to do, for lack of a better name, I called it the hinge, lift, and turn drill. Just because I didn't come up with anything more creative than that for now. So when we're getting set, what I try to do is, if the club's inside, if it's outside, well, let's look at those terms, right? Because this very much relates to where my chest is going. So if I get myself set, right, and I'm just going to do this at a small narrow stance, I'm going to do a light hinge. And then I'm going to lift my arms where the club is parallel to the ground. So from here, theoretically, I could not be any more outside, right? If this is inside and that's a little outside, this is as much as I've got, right, without going in the wrong direction. So if this is as far outside as I can go, right, and then I turn, now the question is it still outside? I didn't change my arms, right? I just turned my body. You can see my microphone is pointing at the camera. Here my microphone's pointing at the window. So I turn, and it's not outside anymore. So the question is, does outside and inside even exist? I'll leave that one for the comments. Feel free, I'm sure there will be a lot. So if my hands and arms don't dictate whether the club is inside or outside, it's less about a little in or a little out. That's more of a field description. And really it's more that my arms either went the wrong way or they went the right way, okay? Very black and white, I know, but it does help a lot. So if I lift and I hinge, and I turn, hinge, lift and turn, sorry. From here, how do I get back to the ball? Well, if I lifted the club, I'm trying to just let it fall back down again. What goes up must come down. So as I let it fall, I'm also trying to face the other way, okay? Now, of course I didn't get that. When I do that, right, you'll see not a lot changes in terms of the direction. So I go hinge, lift, turn. Now, just again, I'm just letting it fall, and I'm facing the other way, right? So as I'm kind of going through this, you notice like it won't really go too far offline. And at the end of the day, right, if I do this where I'm just using almost no pressure with my fingers, I'm lifting, turning. Now I just let it drop, go the other way. Again, I'm not even holding the club there. It's going to go fairly straight because at no point did I ever try to twist the club. I didn't try to torque the grip at all. I just lifted and lowered. That would be, this is very much a drill, not something you should go out in the course and do, right? Lift, turn, fall, ball's there. So for those guys and gals who tend to get a little over the top or a little underneath, I'm going to show you something else. We can see on down here, we may not be able to see, but the club path on that was 0.2 to the right, 0. I don't really get too hung up on the decimals here. So if I do the same thing, hinge, lift, turn, and I change the sequence. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to start unwinding before I allow the club to drop. What happens, there's my left path. Right? So 5.5 to the left. If I go do the same thing, hinge, lift, turn, and what I do is I let it fall first, and as it falls, I just turn a little later and a little quicker, right? Just on the sequence. Now my path is 4 to the right, right? So those are kind of a good little back and forth there. So as I'm going through this, what you're going to realize is I'm not trying to influence my club path with my arms, right? So as I'm turning, right, the sequence that I come down is going to dictate my path. Now, if you come over the top, this is an important note. For everyone that comes over the top, they're going to go, oh, my hands, I can't stop my hands, I can't stop my arms. Go further up the river. Look where my microphone, this little fairy guy, is pointing. So if I unwind first, now I kind of don't have anything else to do except that, right? Now I'm in trouble. So ultimately, rather than try to tuck the arms down to the pocket, this camera is going to show you when you let everything fall, why it's falling is because I'm still here with my chest. This is where in front is. So referring back to what I was earlier saying, in that what's in front of me is changing when I turn. In front of me is now here, and then in front of me is here, which is impact, and then in front of me is here. So in terms of the swing, if this is, I put my hand out to represent, like I've got the club, but this represents where in front of me is. I'm hinging forward. This is now in front of me. I turn back. This is now in front of me. As I'm coming down to the ball, I'm holding my angle a little longer where I'm still facing back here, just that little bit longer. As I do that, there's all those magic little spots. Then I'm facing almost at the ball, and then I'm facing the target. Right, so what that looks like in motion is I'm turning back, right, back here. I'm going down, and then I'm through, right, and I'm back facing the target. Do that one more time. So as we go a little more, same idea. Turn, through, right? Always the club is staying in front of me. So for me personally, my feel that I really like to use is when I start to get a little long, I might start seeing the driver creep out of my left eye here. And the only way with where I am in my mobility these days is to allow this to occur. My goal is I try to keep this flat to the ground. Now, it won't be. It obviously goes further. That's just my feel, right? Feel versus real. We did a video on that already. So from here, that helps me really feel like my chest gets back. I hold it back, and then I come on through. What that looks like face on. Really get turned, hold my chest back, come on through. So let me do one more for the road, see if we can get a good one here for you guys. Back, and come on through, a little bit to the right. So, need my glove. Most important thing I want you to take away from today is it is literally what the words we use to describe it. I want to keep the club in front of me. The thing to remember that's probably a little different is in front of me is not the ball. In front of me is wherever my chest goes. That's going to dictate what I'm going to do with the club. If I want to hit a little fade, I'm going to just get in front of me working more that way. Again, where my chest is pointing, well, that way is going to be more in to out. So to, let's say, neutralize that last one, and I want to just see it go nice and straight, that's going to be more there, all right? So if you want to spend some time working on this, definitely just think about, like, where's that laser pointing from my chest? It's going to dictate where the club should be. If you take the club back in your takeaway, I'll get a little closer here, sorry. Back in your takeaway and you go, well, my shirt buttons are over here and the club's there, well, guess what? That's not in front of me anymore. That is, right? So just remember the shirt buttons and the hands, you want to keep them mostly out in front in this little space. If they start to get further away and the arms start to cross the chest too much, you're going to get in trouble. If you get stuck and still have no idea what to do, come see us at Golf House Academy. We'll get you sorted out. Cheers and have a great week.